my property is down at the end of a long, somewhat shaded driveway. And of course, here's the cottage, which is my house. 156 years old when I bought it about 4 years ago. It was the old farmhouse for the area. Anyway, follow around, and of course, this is the cottage garden. Beautiful birch tree, dappled light into the garden. The downside of the birch is that the branches appear to break off quite easily. More than one Canadian in the woods has been killed by a falling birch limb. Here's the vegetable garden, surrounded by a cedar rail fence. Found the cedar rails out in the forest. One of my philosophies here with the cottage garden. I don't like to buy things, I like to recycle. I like to find things. The more I spend, the less natural things look. This, by the way, doesn't help much, not with my mosquitoes. So anyway, potatoes, I found them rotting in the bottom of my cupboard, chucked them in soil about a month ago, and they're just coming up. Super easy to grow. Basil, just incredible smell in the basil. Carrots, peppers, hot peppers, and there's my tomato patch. So they're kind of small right now. We've got various types of squash and zucchini at the back, and down to my soon-to-be large flower bed, I've got asparagus growing at the back. They say it takes about 8 years before you can actually start harvesting the asparagus. So this is it. I actually dug it out from the wild. Foxgloves, typical of the country garden. Sadly, mine are not. I should have deadheaded them. I didn't do it, so bad on me. But anyway, deadheading keeps them flowering. The bumblebees just love the foxglove, as will do the hummingbirds soon enough. Orange carnations, amongst the most beautiful in my opinion. We've got the spiderwort over here. Apparently it goes blue when exposed to radiation. I hope it's blue, not purple. The way I'm predicting it is that my garden's free of radiation right now. Cosmos, love those. They reseed themselves every year. Kind of a little fence out of cedar saplings that had died in the forest. Easy to make this kind of thing a trellis whereby you can grow hopefully scarlet runners on next year. These things I dug out, I can't even recall what they're called. I know it's just a common name and so forth. Dug them out of a field nearby. They've just been kind of abandoned, as had other plants I've got. This would be a good example of, if you're traveling around and you see, flowers, out in the woods. Irises, just beautiful. I'm not suggesting you always want to pull out flowers that you see, but there is a lot kicking around. Even, you've got little white iris as well. So, this is one of my favorite irises. This is the Savannah Sunset. The most incredible orange color. It's just beautiful when it actually flowers. Jacob's ladder, I've got a lot of that around, and ferns behind kind of nicely. Fills in the back of the garden there. Now, lots of bachelor's buttons. Again, they fill a spot. Columbines, typical English country garden look again. We love the columbines, all different types. Some more elaborate than others, and the pink yarrow. And of course the bachelor's buttons, out of control this year, I'm afraid. They come out at the start, the early spring and what have you. Something about the yarrow that I really, really like. Just the beautiful, soft leaves, fronds, whatever you want to call them. Just like feathers, basically. They really are like feathers. Very much of an Englishy sort of country garden kind of thing, the yarrow. Dug up out in a field again, same place as I get a lot of my flowers, and it's in an area I'd call it my karst pavement, which is really a replication of a limestone elvar area. Beautiful little plants grow around there, but sadly I can't replicate the actual soil chemistry that you would find in the limestone Elvar. If you were to go up north into the Bruce Peninsula, you're going to find all sorts of flowers. In particular, one of my favorites, the yellow lady slipper. But anyway, that's my attempt at the limestone Elvar, this cracked limestone pavement. Okay, and the trumpeter vine. This thing, it's bloomed, it actually starts growing kind of late, so you always suspect that it's died. Once it gets moving, it's fantastic, and it brings the hummingbirds. And oh, this, I got this. It's on the Bruce Peninsula. It's black currant. Easily grown just by cutting off the top, putting some rooting hormone on, letting it root, and then popping it in the ground. So I'm expecting someday soon we're going to have these currants. I've actually not even tried them before, but I'm optimistic they'll be quite nice. Blood good Japanese maples. Irish or Scottish moss, I can't remember which it is, but it's doing real well. Just lovely to put in amongst the rocks. Of course, the rock wall, which I've built from local, what's known as whirlpool sandstone. And I just want to read you a little bit from one of my books about the whirlpool sandstone. I wrote this book, rock watching. I'm saying here, this is a bell fountain that the actual rock comes from. The whirlpool sandstone, that's what I've got here. The whirlpool sandstone was deposited by a river. In many of Toronto's older sandstone buildings, unusual wood-like grain and swirls can be seen, indicative of the river deposit sediment. So, Queen's Park, built of the red whirlpool sandstone. This is obviously not of the quality that they were looking for. I think it was called, can't remember the other name for the whirlpool sandstone. So that was my book, Rock Watching, and my more recent book, Caving in Ontario. You can buy that on the internet. I'm going to possibly put out a second edition in the near future. I'm an avid caver, and it's what I do most weekends. So if you're into caving, get the book, or even geology for that matter. So the hot tub, put that in pretty well right as soon as I bought the house. I had to pour the actual foundation and reinforce it with concrete right away as soon as I bought the house, so I could get the hot tub in right afterwards. You know, one of the things about the hot tub area is that it's kind of nice to just be able to walk on this sort of tiling area. I actually made them out of a mold, little octagonal mold. I guess it's not octagonal, it's six-sided. And I just cast concrete and just lay them out where I want them. And it makes a nice surface for walking on. It feels really good underneath the feet. And by the way, these trees, the cedars, I've rescued them from an area that was about to be plowed under for development. 3 years, I mean, they've pretty well tripled in height, all these various cedars, and I'm hoping in the near future that they will entirely obscure the area around the hot tub, so it'll be a more private kind of hot tubbing experience. Against the side of the house, kind of a shaded area, gets the afternoon sun. This is Jacob's ladder. Quite easy to transplant, gets little white flowers underneath. But anyway, it all seems to lay out in this kind of neat way, and it's quite pretty. Chester likes you to flick water at him. There's Derby, Durban, Maggie, my wife. This neat little feature with the birdhouse on top. At night, this just glows incredibly with all the little Christmas lights. It's kind of lights it up around the hot tub area. And this thing I actually rescued out of an old abandoned factory. Something to do with pressing wooden molds. The top is actually a valve, something for a valve, and the bottom is the press for the molds. And I've dragged it down a train track. The weight of this thing has got to be over 300 pounds, and oddly I looked up and there was a policeman watching me dragging it down the track. So here we go, I'm in trouble now. He didn't say a word. We're surrounded by trees, so it's a lovely sort of private location here. That's one of the things I really do like about the garden. And of course after work, I like to just sit back in my chairs, relax, have a cup of tea, think about the world. Oh, look at these bad boys about to break loose. Huge Oriental Poppies. That'll be out within a couple of days. They're absolutely beautiful. The problem is they drop their petals pretty fast.